suits in sweaty meetings, stressing views and spitting speeches. Your words make no sense at all. You claim you own the world, everybody owes you something. They're all here to make you money, so they better toe the line. You risk higher stakes, higher bids and higher minds, whiter teeth and whiter lines. You need to keep your body numb. You crave swimming pools, bigger cars and bigger houses, bigger rooms to fuck your spouses, but you got no space for love. You got no space for love. You got no space for love. Got no space for love. Go ahead and make life last. Go ahead and make life last. You don't spend time alone. You're as empty as your bedrooms. You just fill them with possessions. Can you feel the irony? You've got 4 kids with us, just as many mothers. Though you act like you ain't got them, but you've got no space for love. You got no space for love. You got no space for love. Place your value in material things, but then you wonder why you're incomplete. Pull and snap you like a rubber band. Go ahead and make life last. Go ahead and make life last. Live the high life, you're a self-made man. The devil makes work of your idle hands. It's so valued you don't understand. Go ahead and make life last. Go ahead and make life last.
So I'm joined with Luke Joyce, aka Lucas Beach, and thank you very much for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me on the show.
That's all right. It's great to have you. Obviously, quite a lot of people will know you as Luke from Finn, but obviously you've got your own solo project now, and it's very exciting to hear that in a couple of weeks' time that your album will be released as well.
Yeah, it's finally done, and it comes out on the 6th, Friday the 6th of July, so next Friday.
Oh, next Friday. Okay, so yeah, we're all waiting in anticipation to hear the full album, but you've released 2 songs so far, so you've got Champagne and Roses and Life Plans. We'll kick on to Life Plans first. I find it's quite a catchy, melodic, soulful song. Could you tell us a little bit more about sort of the ins and outs of the song and how it sort of came to fruition?
It was one of those songs that just sort of kind of came out of nowhere, really. There was this clap that goes on in the background, because I use a lot of old samples and stuff like that for my music, because I really love old soul records and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I got that clap going, and then the beat came, and then I just kind of came up with the chords around that, and then the whole story behind the song really is just a lot of the album is observations, like how I observe life mm-hmm. in general, and I just. It's just about a businessman, really, that's obsessed with being, being successful and money and all the material stuff that doesn't actually mean anything, and he's got a family at home and he doesn't care about, and all he cares about is how many cars he's got, all that kind of stuff. And it seems to me that it's becoming more of a regular occurrence nowadays, these kind of people they're obsessed with consumerism and what they're flashy, what they've got on their wrist and that kind of stuff. And just I think that kind of just came out really quickly. I think the line "Go ahead and make life plans" was the first thing I came up with, and then I kind of just thought, well, what could that be about, really? Because I really like that line. And then the song just sort of it flowed in the studio so quickly. It came out in like a day.
Oh, nice.
That's normally a good sign.
That's a good sign.
You don't have to work hard at it. I don't like to sort of spend too long on a track. If it's not happening after like 3 or 4 sessions, I'll just bin it, because it's just like, I'm trying too hard here. This isn't going to be a good song. So yeah, Life Plans was one of those ones that just really came out quick, and I think it was like the third or fourth song I wrote for the album.
Okay, so by that point you had a bit of a theme or a bit of a collection going on for this album.
I wouldn't say that. I would say I think I was just sort of having trying to figure out what my sound was or what I was.
Okay.
And I think that was the point that I kind of figured it out, that that's what I was. That's what I wanted to do. Because one of the first songs I which is on the album, is a song called Muscle Memory, and that was the first song I wrote as for my solo project.
Yeah.
And it opens the album actually, and I really love it. I like it's not like sort of like Life Plans, in the sense that it's not sort of like a catchy sort of track. It's much more sort of an album track, but I really love the way it moves and stuff. But it kind of set me off, so I thought, right, I'll open with that. I'll put that on the album first, and then and I sort of wanted to sort of tell the story of how I progressed record wise with the album. So I've sort of laid out the album in a similar way that I wrote the songs, in a way.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's good that the first song that you wrote is actually the first song on the record. So then, when people listen to this interview, they can kind of get more of a sense of, okay, so this is the first song he wrote for this solo project. So now they can put it into a bit more context, and so can I actually. So it'll be interesting to have that mentality when I'm thinking about sort of where your journey started as a solo artist.
I mean, the funny thing about that is, like, Muscle Memory is literally about my battle with Finn going on a hiatus and me trying to figure out whether or not I wanted to still do music, and whether or not I could do music on my own, because I'd never done it, on my own. So it was kind of all quite daunting and scary and all that sort of stuff. And so that's, Muscle Memory essentially, is something you haven't done for a while, but you pick it back up again, and you like your muscles do, kind of thing. They kind of sort of remember how you used to do this or that, and it just quickly sort of falls back into that rhythm. And I found with that, like, literally as soon as I started to try and come up with a track, I just sort of fell into this sort of rhythm of doing it, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can still do this, see what happens, kind of thing. So yeah, Muscle Memory is like very much about that. It's about figuring out what I am and what I'm doing, and whether I can do it or not. So
yeah. So when did you realise then, moving back onto the subject of sort of the Finn hiatus, and whether you wanted to still do music? When was a point in your life after Finn and the hiatus did you think, I want to get back into music again, and I want to try and make something on my solo career? And whether you wanted to decide to do a solo career as well?
I think it's much more about what I wanted to get out of music anymore.
Okay, yeah.
Before with Finn, it was always sort of like, it's not that I wanted to be a rock star or anything. That's not the right way to sort of put it. It was much more that we wanted to be successful. We wanted to be like the best best like rock band there was.
Yeah.
Ourselves, you know, like we wanted to do the DIY ethic because a lot of us grew up listening to punk rock and that whole ethos. Like and when we decided to sort of put the brakes on, I kind of almost felt like I didn't have a reason to keep going, like keep making music, because you know I had this purpose, like why I was doing film, why I wanted to do it, and we all did, and now when I sort of felt like, well, do I really want to be that anymore? Do I really want to do that anymore? And it was kind of like, no, I don't. I can't do that anymore. Because there's a certain point in your life where you get to and you kind of feel like, I can't do all this again. Like, I can't go through that again. Because Finn was like, you know, we've been together, we were together 10 years before we started to really know who we were as a band, because we grew up together. Like, I've known bass player since I was 14 years old. So we were in and out since we were kids, you know. So it was kind of like I got to the stage where I just thought, do I want to make music anymore? Yeah, because I felt like there was a massive part of my life missing, like this thing. I was getting depressed, you know what I mean? It was sort of like, why am I getting depressed? Like, and I realised it's because I wasn't being creative. So, Lyrical Speech really came out of me wanting to do music for me, because I love being creative and making music. It's like, it's a part of you, you know. If you're an artist, you're an artist. It's not that you can't hide from it. You can't stop doing it. It's just what you do.
Yeah, it's never just going to go away.
Yeah. So whether I sell any records or get anywhere with this, it really isn't at the top of my list of priorities. My main priority is just to make really good songs, good music, and that I'm getting an outlet, and I'm getting to express myself still, I think. Having said that as well, we spoke about this before, but like the whole, I just find pop music so like monotonous nowadays and so paint by numbers, you know, like it's literally like slotting things into place. And I felt like I wanted to make a pop record that just that actually dealt with real things, real life issues, like real stuff, that you can have like a catchy pop melody and a pop vibe, but still have a bit of balls and a bit of guts and a
character,
bit of integrity, you know, like and like it's written for a purpose. It's not just like, oh, I wanna throw shit at a wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
So that's essentially why I did this, and also because I love other styles of music other than rock, and I wanted to just sort of experiment with that. I have a very pop sensibility, and so I wanted to discover that a bit. So there's loads of reasons for doing it, I think, and I don't think there was an actual moment where I was like, right, I'm going to do this again. It was sort of like, I'll dip my feet in the water, and I remember dipping my feet in for a bit, and then I took them out again, and then I took them back in again. And then I met my wife, and then that happened. You know, you get married and you buy a house and you do all that stuff, and that they've not got in the way, because obviously I'm loving that. It's fantastic, but it was like, I need to focus on that for now. And then I think my wife gave me the confidence as well to get back into it, because she was like, you know, you should do it. You know, you got some really good songs there.
That's good.
Just stop procrastinating and get on with it.
Family support is very key to any musician.
Yeah, I think if you've got the support network behind you, because that was the thing about Finn. We all, you know, pushed each other. We are a family still. You know, we talk regularly. I mean, I speak to them every single day, pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, yeah, like when you haven't got three other guys with the same sort of hunger as you know what I mean, pushing you and going for it. You know what I mean? You've got to do that all on your own. It's kind of difficult, you know. It's kind of like, why am I doing this? You know, should I be doing this? And with Finn, it was like, if it sucks, well, that's all of our fault. It's not just mine.
Yeah.
I think I'm putting this out. It's like,
put a bit of pressure on you.
Fault, mate. That's no one else's fault. You made it.
Yeah. But then you weren't out to impress anyone or anything like that, so you shouldn't put any pressure on you, because this record was more for your own peace of mind, I guess. You wanted to make a record that everyone could enjoy if they wanted to, but it was also to make a pop record that wasn't anything like the mainstream, and to sort of show an example of pop music that is written well.
I do think though that I would be lying, and any artist that says that they do it completely for themselves is talking out their arse, because I think there has to be an element of wanting to impress a little bit. I think there is that element of, I want people to like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're going out there and
yeah.
you're putting out a record and you're just like, oh, it's because I like it, me, self-indulgent, then your record is probably going to be pretty shit, because you're going to be like, you're not going to care about the listener. And while some people probably think that's a great thing, like, forget about the listener, it's not about them, it's about art. Yeah, that's great. But when no one buys your album because it's shockingly like unlistenable, because it's just self-indulgent, and then you wonder why, it's like, it's pretty obvious. Like, you've got to have a little bit, I think, of that desire to want to impress, and you want people to enjoy what you're doing, because ultimately that's, I don't know, that's kind of like a large
formula in a way
of music. Like,
yeah,
it is an integral part of why people perform.
It's the same with live music as well. You want to impress people with your live performance and live presence.
Yeah.
So
I think there is always an element of ego in every artist. Like, there has to be.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise, you can be humble. Obviously, you should be humble. Like, especially if you make it big. But you need that. You need that little thing behind it of like, look at me. I'm an artist. Do you know what I mean? It has to be like. Otherwise, people wouldn't do it, I think.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And so I was just going back to a point before. I heard you mention about wanting to. So Finn was very much about rock, and obviously this is very much about pop. And when you first thought about writing this album, or starting to build on these songs, was there an element of wanting to move back into rock at all, and not so much pulling out the Finn sound to your solo work, but pulling out that rock element into your solo work? And was it meant to be more of a, I know you said it was more of a soul record and you wanted to put more of a pop soul spin on it, but was there ever an inkling of wanting to go back to those days of writing those rock riffs and putting a song on that record on there with that element?
I mean, well, I showed Kerry the record, the bass player from Finn, and he was like, oh, normally with this kind of stuff, like, the guitars are really in the background and you've mixed them like really high. And I was like, yeah, I have. I think that's just because I've still got like sort of that love of guitar music, and I also think that might make up my sound, because I think what I'm doing is quite different from sort of like soul records out there and sort of electronic soul stuff, because it's got like the guitar on there, and it's like very predominant. Like, there's a lot of riffs on every song pretty much, and I think that was intentional in the sense that I started to write these songs and putting these riffs over the top, and really enjoying just playing these riffs that I'd come up with, that I just thought, well, this is sort of starting to sound like cohesive, and I want to do that more on the record, because that's a part of who I am. I mean, Johnny in Finn, he's like unbelievably good at guitar. He's the guy just baffles me how good he is, and he can the stuff he comes up with when we write and stuff. It's just like, how did you do that, man? And I've always been the rhythm guitarist, and I am a rhythm guitarist. That is what I am. I'm a solid rhythm guitarist. I am not a lead guitar player. I don't solo. I can't really solo. But the great thing for me about this is that I could just sit in the studio, and I just sat there and I just played and played and played until I came up with something that I thought, oh, that's a really cool riff. I really like that riff. And some of it is really pushing myself as a guitarist, because I've always sat in the comfort zone of rhythm, like, so I'd be as solid as I can and like just play the guitar riffs that are written. Where this is like has got lead parts to it. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really happy that I've managed to do that. I'll never be Johnny, but at least I'll have got that out, like to express myself a little bit more through my guitar.
And that mean you're more confident on the guitar, and you sort of expressed and found a new element to it as well.
Yeah. But funny enough, like I'm putting a live band together at the moment,
Cool.
and I'm not playing guitar. So
interesting.
I decided that because a lot of the stuff is the lyrics are very rhythmical. It's almost like a little bit rap, like a little bit hip hop influenced. So I just don't feel like holding a guitar is the best way to perform it. So I don't think I'll be playing guitar. I might play on one, who knows, until we start rehearsing. I'm not sure. It might feel like I need an extra guitar or whatever, but we'll see. But yeah, I just feel like I just need to hold a microphone in my hand and just say how it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if I remember rightly, when I saw you in 2011 at Bush Hall, you definitely sort of dominated the stage with or without a guitar.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean that's my influence from like Eddie Vedder and watching him jump around the stage and climb up stuff, and I always thought, this looks so much fun. I'm going to climb things and I'm going to just go as mad as I possibly can.
I think I remember you climbing an amp at the Monarch in 2012. I think that was the last gig I ever saw with Finn. That was saw you guys
show. Yeah,
and
I climbed up. There was like a staircase. I went all the way up the staircase, and there was a balcony, and I wanted to jump off the balcony, but I looked down and there was like loads of people there, and I think there was like a couple of really small kids or something, and I just thought, I better not. Or no, I actually thought, because I had the microphone in my hand and I was singing, and I thought, I've brought the cable all the way up the back here. If I jump down, I'm just going to hang from the cable, I think. But I just didn't jump on that one. But I always used to try and find something whenever I would get to a venue. It was like, right, sound check, right, what's the nearest thing I can climb up?
Brilliant. Yeah, because I remember getting a picture of you on top of the amp, so I'll look forward to seeing more of that. Are you still getting the itch for climbing things as well, even with this solo project?
I'm not sure.
I'm try and turn it down a bit.
Yeah, I think this solo project's a lot less aggressive in that sense. It's a lot more kind of just like lose yourself in it, and I'd be interesting to see how I feel with that, like, and how I perform it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, is it going to be strange though? Because obviously, it was the last time you played live with Finn, so this is going to be very different.
Yeah, it's like I haven't played with other musicians for forever. Like, I mean, since
feels like forever.
So the last band I played with was Finn. So, and yeah, I haven't been in any other bands or done anything musically with anybody else. So this will be the first time that I've played with other musicians other than Finn for probably about 8-9 years.
Yeah. So this will be a very different experience for you. Yeah,
I'm excited about it because I think you get really comfortable with people that you're working with. Like Finn, we can just go into a room, we play. And it was funny because we did this show like about a month ago, which was just so much fun. And it was the first show we'd done in 5 years. We'd just started getting into a rehearsal studio before that for like a month. We went like once a week and just did it around our busy lives. And it was like we got in the room and we were like, is this going to be terrible? We're going to suck. Right? So, and we just sort of like, let's just play some songs. Let's just play some of our songs off our album and just see what happens. And it was like, bam. It was like, it was like riding a bike. It was so weird. Yeah. We were sloppy in places, but actually we could have gone out that night and played a show and people have been like, they were really good tonight. Yeah, they weren't too bad. You know, it wasn't the worst show I've seen. Do you know what I mean? But Finn don't work like that. So we had to be like as good as we physically could be. Like we're very like all in or not. So
back on top 4.
Yeah, so we did a lot more rehearsing before that, but yeah, so it was kind of, you get kind of comfortable. You kind of know how each other work. You know, right, we're going to write a song, so this is how it's going to go. And then like Johnny will write his riffs, and Kerry will come up with his bass lines and all kind of stuff. Whereas this is like kind of I'm going to these new musicians. I don't know what they're like. Like half of them I've only met a couple of times, so I don't really know them that well. Like the guy that's going to play bass for me, I met in a coffee shop, and
Brilliant.
and that's it. Do you know what I mean? So heard he's really, really good. So I was like, great. The only guy I do know is Kerry. Kerry's going to play guitar for me.
Oh, is he? Okay.
And I think that was half of that was because he's a brilliant guitar player and he normally plays bass, and I just thought, well, it'd probably be nice for him to like do something different for a change. And then I've got someone I know. It's like someone holding your hand. You know what I mean, on your first.
Yeah.
So
good to have a familiar face there.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's going to be good.
Yeah.
Just to find new avenues of playing, and like when you play with someone new, it's going to take you out your comfort zone. You're going to learn stuff. I'm going to grow as a musician. So I'm looking forward to like that experience. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming down and seeing the show. It'd be great.
Thanks. I'll let you know when we've got some book.
Thank you. So before we get on to the rest of the interview, folks, we're going to hear a quick message from our sponsors. So let me tell you about the most innovative approach to new music that exists today. Revival Recordings, an artist-first record label based out North Carolina, and has introduced Revival 52, a commitment to fans to release new music every Friday for 52 weeks of 2018. From metal to pop punk to indie rock, Revival 52 will be bringing something new for you to enjoy every Friday. And right now, Revival are actually giving away a free Amazon Echo to one lucky fan once they hit 1,000 followers on their Revival 52 Spotify playlist. Just go to ffm.to/Revival52 and follow their playlist to enter there. So do go enjoy great music from your favourite record label for free right now. That's Revival 52 on Spotify, and that's ffm.to/Revival52. Did you want to tell me a little bit more about that song?
Well, actually, what's happened is, so I released Champagne and Roses first, right?
Yeah.
But it essentially what happened was I put it out, and then because I have literally zero money, I have to do it all myself. So I've had to teach myself how to mix. I've had to teach myself how to master it, right? And I mistakenly left a plugin on that I wasn't going to use when I mastered it. And I put it out. I essentially put the plugin on twice, and it made it sound really toppy. So I put it out on SoundCloud, just put it up, you know, as like a taster. And then my brother actually phoned me up and he was like, mate, I've just put it on in my car. It's wicked, but it sounds really trebly. Like, and I was like, oh, God. Fucked up at the first hurdle kind of thing. Right, I need to go back to the drawing board. So I took it down and then I re-uploaded it. So I just kind of put it back out again. So that's why the perception of it being second, I guess, is the case. But actually, Life Plans was the second single. And I've just put up a new one. A new track. Just when I announced the album release, I put a track up as sort of like, here's a third track that you can listen to as well. So there's 3 up there now. So Champagne and Roses was the first.
Yeah.
Life Plans was the actual proper single. Then I've got another song up there called Wax Lyrical, which sort of shows exactly kind of what you're going to get, really, I think, from the album.
It's a real taster from the album. I haven't actually listened to it yet, and I wish I'd found out about it.
No, like, you know, I'm kind of finding it hard to keep track of what I've done, so like I can't expect anyone else to know what's going on.
It slipped through my fingers, unfortunately. That one.
That's all right. But Champagne and Roses, I mean, like, that's probably the rockiest track, I think. Yeah. On the album, and it's not that rocky, so I don't know.
That would be that's going to be a flavour for everyone if that's the rockiest song on the album.
Yeah.
So Wax Lyrical sounds like an interesting song. Lyrically, anyway, it sounds like it's. Do you want to let me know what sort of the lyrics are about with that song?
Yeah. Okay. So it's probably lyrically the most complicated thing I've written, and it's probably the most sort of hip hop influenced because it's sung, but it's essentially rapping without me like ruining rap forever because I don't think I would be a rap artist. But
I'm sure if you're confident enough to do it, I'm sure it's great.
I hope so. But well, we'll see. We'll see if people like it. But it's a departure from whatever I've done before. Lyrically speaking, I thought of the title before I thought of anything else. I had the music idea going on, and it's a very sort of sampley track in the sense that I found this sort of flute line that I really liked. That was sort of like an old soul flute line. So I took that, I cut it up, and I created my own flute line out of it. And there was like an old school kind of soul record thing that I found, and I cut that up and made my own thing out of it. So it sounds nothing like the original stuff that was there, but you'll notice when you listen to it, it's very sort of like it sounds strange in a way because it's kind of me really messing about with samples and seeing what I could create out of it.
Okay.
But yeah, so that came. I had the music for that, and then the title Wax Lyrical came up, and I was like, what does that even mean? Like
that's what I was thinking. That's why I wanted to just touch base on it because it sounded like a very interesting song, especially the name of it.
Yeah, and so I was like kind of looking into what it meant. And it was like, it's something about being enthusiastic. It's like, hang on, it's about being enthusiastic or something. Talk in a highly enthusiastic and an effusive way.
Interesting.
Right. So, yeah. So I just thought, well, all right, that's kind of cool. I can think about that. And then I started thinking about, like we were talking about pop and like how shit it is, and like how just chart music is just paint by numbers and terrible.
Yeah.
And I just thought, and then I came up with this line: "Nothing feels right unless the music's good."
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, I've got something now. I know what I'm going to do. And then I was on the train and I just wrote the word wax lyrical, and then I started to try and just think if I could come up with really cool, like almost rhythmical lyrics with it. So and then it just sort of flowed from there, and it's just essentially about the music industry. It's about, you know, how major labels, in my opinion, ruin a lot of music, and how the record industry is against music more than it is for it. It doesn't support artists. Everything's kind of very sort of consumerism now, so everything's sort of throwaway, and it made it increasingly difficult for artists to actually have a long career. Like longevity seems like an impossibility nowadays. Like artists just sort of you get one album and then that will be massive, and then you'll disappear into nothing. Do you know what I mean? There's so many bands and artists that I've come across in the last 5-6 years that just don't exist anymore. They're just not around. So yeah, I wanted to write a song about that, and about how important music is, and how it's been butchered and sort of watered down for the masses just to sell records and make money. Because ultimately, I get why record labels do it, because they're just a bunch of businessmen in a room trying to make money. But essentially, they're playing with an art. They're it's not just a product, you know. And I say that in the song, you know. But it's
So I actually have an interesting question, because I was thinking about this the other day, about like why, or was it last night actually, where basically why does the music industry seem so watered down at the moment, and why are we okay with it, or like why are the masses okay with that? Like they know it, or they know that people aren't happy with it. And I thought, are people becoming less complacent so they're just not calling things out that are crap and just either are too lazy to find new music, or are we just becoming less complacent about calling out crap music and just dealing with it?
I mean, my opinion is that, you know, the internet came along, and I was very much sort of, Finn had just sort of begun when that all was sort of kicking off, you know, illegal downloads and Napster and everything else, and no one really understood quite what effect it would have on the music industry, I think, at the time, and record labels didn't really understand it either, because most of them were just dinosaurs in suits, so none of them they just thought, oh, it won't affect us, we're you know, we've got a really good thing going here, like people buy records, we put CDs out, we charge a ridiculous amount of money for them and people buy them, so, because that's the only way that they can get music. And now there's just, music is everywhere. Like, you can just go online and listen to it for free, and it's kind of it's killed the music industry completely. And I'll be very surprised in 5-10 years if there are actually record labels around. But the thing is, kids buy records, adults don't. You don't get adults really buying singles anymore. They go on Spotify, they have their Spotify accounts, and they listen to entire albums that come out, or they just like listen to the tracks that come out. You know, kids are the ones that listen to YouTube, really. Do you know what I mean? They're always on YouTube. So essentially, music industry are just giving the kids what they want, which is hundreds and hundreds of different Justin Biebers and One Directions and whoever else is current at the moment. And it's all watered down. It all sounds the same. You know, you'll get one, and they get a bunch of writers in a room to write, say, for example, Rihanna's new album's coming out, for example. I don't know if she's got a new record coming out or not, but if she does, they'll have 12 different writers write 12 different songs for her, and they'll pick the single and they'll do that. So, and they're all kind of on a certain style. So there's like, you know, there might be sort of a Latin feel going on at the moment in the charts or something like that, and everyone will jump on that, so everyone will write a record that sounds like that, and the writers will sell it to the record labels, and the record labels will give it to the artist, because the artists don't write their own songs. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just like never-ending cycle of just...
So this is coming back to my point, is that people know that there are 12 writers for these artists, and people know that they are just sold to record labels to appeal for the masses, whatever's popular at the moment. So this is why I'm thinking people are becoming less complacent, that they know that these are happening. So why aren't people calling them out, especially with such freedom of speech of social media?
I think because people don't care as much anymore. I think
put it point blank.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I'd go into a record shop. There'd be Beggars Banquet in Kingston, where I used to go to, and there used to be compilation albums that come out from like all these different labels, these punk rock labels that we would love, and we'd buy the compilation CDs, find the songs that we love. You know, like I remember years ago the band Jimmy Eat World. If Kerry ever hears this, he'll laugh, because we make jokes about how our group of kid friends, you know, like when we were teenagers growing up, used to joke that we all discovered Jimmy Eat World, like they were no one before we made them. Okay. You know what I mean? Which was complete rubbish. You know, they were a well-established band by then, but we discovered them in our own way, in our own little sort of world. And we heard one of their songs on some compilation record, and that was it. We were all loving Jimmy Eat World, and everyone was, you know, sharing that with each other at parties or whatever. You'd put it on and you'd be like, oh, this is Jimmy Eat World, and everyone would get into it, and it would work like that. It would be like a feeling of discovery, a feeling of, this is yours, you create this, yeah. And that's how bands used to get somewhere. And then they used to go on tour and they used to sell albums and records, because that was how you did it. Now there's none of that. Do you know what I mean? So, how are bands supposed to even get anywhere? Because, like, you know, no one buys records anymore. So bands don't make money out of records, so they have to tour. But in order to tour, they have to have fans. But how do you get fans if you don't have any promotion? So it's like it's really difficult. But at the same time, on the other end of the scale, there is the internet now. So if you do get discovered, if people do listen to your music and do like what you're doing, and they do start really listening to you, and you do start getting a little bit of hype about you, then things can happen, and then you can actually, sort of tour and make a living out of touring as an artist. But there is never going to be another rock star. There's never going to be, there's not going to be another band like Nirvana or, I think we were talking the other day, me and a couple of friends, that Muse are probably the last, like, stadium rock band left. They're going to be the last ones. Do you know what I mean? The ones that actually are of that colossal size. Do you know what I mean?
I would add Foo Fighters to that list as well.
Yeah, but the funny thing about Foos is, right, that they are incredible, don't get me wrong, but they don't do that well in America. People don't know that. They're not actually very big in their home, their home country. They're huge
so.
in England. Like, in England and parts of Europe, they're massive, but actually they don't do that well in America, which is really confusing to me. Like, why want to not be as big as say Muse is in America? Muse are huge in the States, aren't they? So they're everywhere. But the funny thing about Muse is, and I know a lot of Finn fans are fans of Muse, but they don't really focus on releasing records anymore. They focus on touring, and that's for the precise reason that records don't sell anymore. So they'll release something, but there's not a lot of hype around what they release. It's much more based on what they're doing live. What music.
I do remember there being a lot more hype when they toured, and there was all these robots for their recent tour flying around the stadiums that they were playing at. But in terms of their latest record, I listened to it, but I didn't really hear too much about it. So I completely agree with that. So it seems to be working for them.
And it almost feels like what they're doing is they're a lot of their like ideas around their records is they're thinking, oh, what could we do for our live shows? So let's call our album Drones or whatever. I think the name of the last, I'm not sure if that's the name of the record or not, but I know there was a song or something.
Yeah, it was.
But and it was like they're on tour and they're doing this whole drones vibe and this whole idea around, being watched by Big Brother and everything. So it's kind of like, did you come up with that idea because of the album, or did you come up with the idea for the album because that's what you wanted to do live? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of
so the album concept has come from the live touring concept that they had first. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I've never really thought about it like that. Maybe people, when you get to that size, you can base your live shows around a theme and then write an album for that tour.
Exactly.
Interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
So it's kind of like, I think a lot of big bands are doing that now. I think a lot of art, the song itself is suffering because I think a lot of bands are focusing much more on touring and playing than they are of spending like 6 months in a studio recording their album, really focusing on the record, because it's just it just doesn't happen anymore. There's no money for it. You look at old artists like Springsteen and all that, and even the Foo Fighters when they first started out, and all that kind of stuff, and Nirvana and all that. They'd spend ages in the studio just getting a snare drum sound. They'd spend months writing and recording their record because a label would go, oh, you're going to sell, 1 million records or whatever. It's fine. You'll easily recoup that. Just spend all this time in the studio. Let's get you an engineer and a producer and give the producer this much money. And do you know what I mean? And money was just flying around back then. They just do that. And their records would come out and they'd be like groundbreaking, amazing albums that sounded so good and different. And now you just kind of you don't get that anymore because there's no money. So you get people just producing their music in their bedrooms, like me. Like, I've done my album essentially in my home studio, in a computer. Do you know what I mean? And one input into the computer. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, that's a great part of it, like the ability with technology to make your own music and be so it's at your fingertips now. You can just do it. But at the same time, I think because there's no money, because no one's buying records, you have to tour all the time, and that can't be good for writing songs. It's not good.
Yeah, so I do feel like touring has taken over the industry quite a lot recently. But then it's a shame the things like Warped Tour are finishing.
Right.
So
I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah, so the Warped Tour that's going on at the moment is the very last one.
Right.
So
Why?
in a way it's sort of contradicting our point. If it's like one of the biggest tours of, you know, America is finishing because of lack of funds and money.
Well, there was something I read a little while ago about that, how because what happened was with the industry just sort of not selling records anymore, they suddenly just started doing loads of festivals everywhere, and then they've saturated the market with festivals, and it's probably reached this point where they're putting on so many festivals and so many shows that people are like, well, I can't afford to go to this many shows you know what I mean? And people are getting bored. They're like, I don't want to go to 10 shows a year or whatever. Some people just like to go and see their band, their favourite band, you know, once a year or something, you know, like, I don't know. I just think maybe that they're oversaturating it like the record industry love to do. And I think essentially it's backfiring. I think it's probably going, you know, they've just got to that point. Everything reaches a point where it gets too much and then it starts to sort of collapse. And I think that's what's happening, and that's maybe why the Vans Warped Tour's done that, is that it's peaked, it's reached that point, and now it can't compete with all the other stuff. Also, Vans, isn't it mainly punk rock artists on Vans?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing about punk rock as well, isn't it? It's kind of dying out as well. It's not as, you know, No Effects and all those artists that I used to listen to, you know, a lot of those people have grown up and stopped listening to that kind of stuff now. Do you know what I mean? A lot you know, a lot of the it's sad, but it's just life. You know, people change and people start listening to other stuff, and I don't know. Maybe that's another issue. Is that Vans, you know, punk rock isn't as popular as it used to be. You know.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. So I mean, the whole touring aspect probably is, you know, taking over, but for specific genres.
Yeah.
I guess it's probably one way to put it. But I mean, it won't stop you from touring.
Well, I don't know about touring, but I'll definitely do shows, like, because that's part of who I am. I love doing this, but whether touring is feasible, I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, it all comes down to money, essentially. You know, we've got to pay our bills, and touring just takes up so much time. You have to take so much time out.
Yeah, definitely.
It's tricky,
and especially with family as well. You got to put them first. Yeah,
I've got a baby on the way, so you know.
Congratulations.
I'm not gonna have any money for a very, very long time. You know,
at least they can grow up with good music.
Sorry?
At least they can grow up with good music.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I'm gonna play them as much good music as possible.
So this is going to be the final segment for this interview then. You have 1 minute to share with the audience what you're up to at the moment, what's coming up for Lucas Beach. The floor is yours. Okay,
thanks. Okay, so my self-titled debut album comes out next Friday on the 6th on all online retail, Spotify and iTunes, etc. It's my debut album. I made it all myself with no help from anybody, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. I'm putting a live band together, so I should be doing some shows soon as well. Keep your ears peeled and let me know what you think of the record. And thanks for listening.
So thank you very much for coming on to the show, and all the best for the baby on the way, the album release, and the live shows coming up.
Thanks very much, mate.
And then I will be talking to you very soon with the band.
Yeah, we've still got to lock that in, actually.
That's coming up soon.
Yeah, that will come up soon. Definitely.
That's a nice little one to end on there. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me. We'll close the show with Champagne and Roses, and thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, mate.
romantics. No, you don't care for men with hearts of gold, unless you can tear them out and wear them. Oh, you really love what you really love. Champagne and roses. Champagne and roses. Champagne and roses. Champagne, champagne, roses. You like to think you're Hollywood, a ballerina, modern day Monroe. Do anything for fame, you really would. You're the trophy wife, a superficial life. Champagne and roses. Champagne and roses. Champagne and roses. Champagne, champagne, roses. Champagne and roses. Champagne and roses. Champagne and roses. Champagne, champagne, roses. Oh, sweet, yeah, always fun. Oh, sweet, yeah, always fun.